September 11th, 2022. Richard Malcolm here. I want to share with you today what I'm going to entitle a message called Dumb and Dumber. So, Psalm 14 verse 1 says, "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God." And we see in Isaiah chapter 14, 12 to 15, there's a fellow by the name of Lucifer. That story tells us that he thought he could overthrow God, be like the Most High, take over. And in fact, in Revelation 12, it says the dragon drew 1/3 of the stars from heaven. He managed to convince 1/3 of the angels to join up with his opposition to God. Well, we look into the Bible and the history and see what has happened to those who have opposed God. So let's take a look at the days of Moses in Egypt. Up until the time he was born, Pharaoh had decreed, because of the Israelites growing in vast numbers in the land of Goshen, to throw all of the male babies into the Nile River. Let the crocodiles eat them up. They're getting to be too strong. So Moses' parents saved him, put him in a little ark, a little basket, and the daughter of Pharaoh pulled him out of the river, raised him as her own, Prince of Egypt. Then when he found out he was a Hebrew, he more or less left after killing an Egyptian, ended up in Midian, where for 40 years he was tending sheep. Then he saw the burning bush, Mount Sinai, back to Egypt. And when the Egyptians under Pharaoh opposed God, numerous plagues came upon them, one right after the other. And of course, one of the most famous is when they had to put the blood on the lintel and on the doorposts so the angel of death would pass over. And from then on it was celebrated as such. Firstborn of all Egypt was killed. Not enough, though. The Pharaoh says, you know what, after he let the Israelites go, let's go get them. We're going to kill them all. So, story, Moses parting the Red Sea, and all the Israelites went over on dry land, and it says the Egyptians, a saying to do, were all drowned. Didn't work out too good for him as being in opposition to God. And then, of course, you see when they go to the wilderness for 40 years, and then under Joshua, they go into the promised land. The very first opposition in Jericho, the walls came tumbling down. And they managed to defeat most of the Canaanites within the land in short order. So then, we see other examples. We have the judges. Samson was one of the judges. And so the Philistines were in opposition to God's people, the Israelites. Samson at one point took the jawbone of an ass and slew over 1,000 Philistines. And of course, when he got seduced by Delilah, burnt his eyes out and cut his hair, he became weak. And then as he was in the grist mill and they were making fun of him, his hair grew back, he got his strength again, went into the temple, and he pushed the pillars apart, and he killed more in his death than in his life. Nebuchadnezzar, one of the kings that overtook the Israelite kings and led into captivity in Babylon. For a period there, he kind of lost his mind. And then he went around eating grass like an ox. And then he regained his sanity and realized there is a God in heaven, gave him credit, and he was able to write some of the book of Daniel. King Herod, later on in the New Testament, he had this great oration. Oh, it's the voice of a God. Took the credit, not giving it to God, ended up He was attacked by worms and he died. So, all those in opposition to God, God is undefeated. Well, by the way, that Satan who opposed God, he too one day will be cast into the lake of fire that was prepared for the devil and his angels, not for you and I. So, what is a fool anyway? The fool has said there's no God in his heart. You look it up on the internet and it says stupid, idiot, someone who's lacking good judgment. My wife likes this one, nincompoop. So a fool is somebody that decides there's no God. I can do as I please. But the facts are, we're all accountable to God. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and all those dwell therein. God has a claim on all humanity. And we'll all stand before the judgment seat of Christ as believers and the great white throne judgment as unbelievers. It's appointed once for a man to die, then after this, the judgment. So you might like sin for a season, but eternity is a long time. And so you can either be a champion of God or an opponent of God. You can either be a wise person and follow the living God, or you can be a fool and oppose God. But we've seen through past history, all those who oppose God get defeated. Just like little David, when he came up the giant Goliath. One little smooth stone from the brook in a slingshot, down Goliath goes. David uses his sword, cuts his head off. So we see throughout all of history, God has his champions, and those that oppose him, they don't fare very well. So you have a choice. You can either become a champion for God, and the new heaven and the new earth, which is coming, can be your dwelling place forever, or you can oppose God. There really isn't a God. And you can end up with the devil and his angels in the lake of fire that was not prepared for you, but by your choice, you've rejected God, you've opposed God, and that's where you end up. Free choice, free will, it's up to you. Check it out. Be like the noble Bereans. Search through the scriptures. See what they have to say. And then make your decision. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a good day. Don't be dumb and dumber. Be a wise person and take the right path. Thank you. Bye for now.